This is the Reporter's Notebook, hosted by Elaine Shane.
Welcome to this entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. DTN Senior Ag Meteorologist Bryce Anderson joins us today as we look at what's happening with the drought in the Southern Plains. Bryce, we've been seeing a lot of just how dry it is in the Southern Plains.
Bad stuff, yeah.
Which areas are being affected and how bad is it?
Well, Elaine, pretty much west of the Kansas Turnpike, Interstate 35, U.S. Highway 81, kind of from Wichita to Salina in central Kansas, south central Kansas, and then west of there. That's where things are really bad. It takes in just about the entire western two-thirds of Oklahoma and then into much of Texas, again, particularly the western half to two-thirds of Texas. And within that, the Texas Panhandle area, Oklahoma Panhandle, and then southwestern Kansas have the driest conditions. And we're looking here at drought levels that on the U.S. Drought Monitor are drought level 3, extreme, and even exceptional drought starting to show up, drought level 4. So that's where things are bad, and they're just, getting drier and drier with almost each passing day.
Seems almost like deja vu from last year. What led to that this year?
Well, I think the real driver of all this has been the development of a cool water trend, a La Niña pattern in the Pacific. It's really interesting to look at this because the La Niña pattern, Elaine, developed, was identified, really set in back in November. And about that time, we also started to see, coincidentally, the drier conditions develop in the Southern Plains. And this is a real fingerprint of La Nina in terms of its impact on weather conditions in the U.S. And then ever since, all the way through the winter, we've been talking about it frequently, La Nina has been in effect. There has been virtually no storm track move through the Southern Plains, and this part of the country has just gotten drier and drier.
Now, we know that there's the fire danger, but there's also the damage to the wheat crop. Which areas are you most concerned on?
Right now, I'm concerned more about the wildfire situation because we've seen a real threat of strong winds developing almost on a moment's notice, and I think that that's going to be a big feature through the spring. And then along with that, as the winter wheat crop comes out of dormancy, we're going to see some stress from that part of things as well, to the point that I think that there could be a fair amount of acreage abandonment, particularly in the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle areas regarding winter wheat. There's just not a whole lot of moisture there, and I think that we're going to see some of that acreage get torn up.
What do you see for the forecast for the next several weeks?
Well, there's going to be some chances for moisture in the region, but it's not going to be enough to ease this dry situation we've got. In addition, it has been a very active late winter, early spring trend in the upper atmosphere, to the point that the jet stream just kind of scoots across the Southern Plains. So that means that any storm systems that form are, I think, going to track fairly quickly across that region, not slow enough to drag in any moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. And thus, we keep looking for a dry pattern to continue.
Speaking of continuing, is there any hope at all then for the growing season?
I don't think there's very much. I think we're, and I've been saying this at farm shows this past winter, I think that we're in a situation where not only will wheat acreage be abandoned, but we know that this part of the country also has some pretty severe restrictions on irrigation water use. And I think irrigation water allocation is going to be a real challenging factor in managing the situation for crops this season in that part of the country.
Thanks, Bryce.
You're welcome.
With Bryce Anderson, I'm Elaine Shane, and that's today's entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. Thanks for joining us, and have a good evening from DTN.
This has been the Reporter's Notebook from the DTN Progressive Farmer Newsroom.